And so today we're pleased to welcome Sergeant Kim, who serves as coordinator for Crimestoppers. He does many presentations, so we're going to let him introduce himself, but please join me in welcoming Sergeant Kim.
Oh, thank you so much. So basically, the approach that I want to take is we're going to do more of a talk story. I'll talk about, the program in itself, some of the things that we're seeing right now. Feel free to interrupt me at any time, ask any questions as, they come along. And in closing, I'll kind of tell you how I got to where I am and basically my quote unquote inspirational story. So with that said, once again, my name is Sergeant Chris Kim. It's actually my 23rd year now with HPD. I took over the Crimestoppers program in 2017 when the previous coordinator, Sergeant Kim Buffett, had announced her retirement. I'll get more into that a little bit later as to how it came about. But Crimestoppers in itself, we were founded in February 1981. We just celebrated our 40th anniversary. We are a separate nonprofit organization, completely separate from the Honolulu Police Department. I am a sworn officer, but the program in itself is completely separate from HPD. That's a common misconception. People think that Crimestoppers is part of HPD when we are not. We are not funded through the city. We're not funded through the state. Our only source of income or funding is through our donations or our fundraisers, which unfortunately had been canceled last year. Once again, Crimestoppers, what I like to tell people is that we're the link. We're the link between the community and the police department by utilizing the media. The police department, they receive cases, as if they need help solving cases, they reach out to Crimestoppers. We then put it out to the media, who then puts it out to the public. So basically, it's a partnership, because it's basically it's all our responsibility, in helping to keep our island safe. Just really briefly, how the program was started is back in 1976. There was a murder in New Mexico, and there was a young detective by the name of Greg McAleese that was assigned to investigate the murder of a college student who had taken on an extra shift working at a gas station, and he was gunned down. There were basically no clues to solve this crime. So Detective McAleese thought that, there's somebody out in the public that knows something about this. So he wants to put it out to the public, ask for any information, promise to keep them anonymous, and offer a cash reward. So later on that evening, he wanted the news, and he talked about the case. He says, if you know anything about this case, please contact us at Crimestoppers. We'll keep it anonymous and we'll give you a cash reward. Well, the next day he received a tip. It just so happened there's a person walking by at the time of this incident, heard the gunshots, saw the car speeding by, and was able to get a license plate and description of the people involved. Within 72 hours of releasing this information, the case was solved. That was back in 76. Honolulu brought it over in 81. Since then, in our 40 years, we've had, thousands of arrests, millions of dollars in drug. Hugely successful. 99. The super program part of education and HPD, because we know that the kids are usually the first to know about things that are happening in their campus. They're usually the first to know about illegal contrabands, about fights, about bullying. I'm proud to say that since this program, it's huge now. We've been nationally recognized for the Student Crimestoppers program. We managed to deter suicides, fights. We recovered guns, drugs. The success stories goes on and on. There's a presentation that we did a couple years ago. We spoke at a particular school, about 1,000 students, and we talk about just things, the challenge that these kids face nowadays, about guns, drugs, contraband type items, bullying type issues. And at the end, we actually tell them, that if they know anything going on their campus, to please report it to us. We'll keep them anonymous, because these kids, they should just focus on studying and just being a kid, enjoying their school years, not have to worry about, something bad happening in school. So we actually give them that avenue, that resource to report things to us anonymously. Shortly after doing this presentation, as soon as they got back to my office, we started receiving a tip. Tipster was saying that their classmate, a 13-year-old female, was being sexually assaulted by 3 boys. We took in the tip, investigated with the sex crimes detectives. Upon completion of the investigation, 3 boys were arrested for sex assault. Now, when I went back to the following year to speak to these students, it was like a chicken skin moment for me, because as I stood in front of the cafeteria in front of these, students, I basically just looked out to all of them and just says, I don't know who you are. I don't even know if you're here today. But if you are, just thank you. Thank you for paying attention to the presentation last year. And thank you for reporting that incident to us. I truly believe that you saved your friend's life. Prior to coming over to Crimestoppers, I was a homicide detective. But prior to being a homicide detective, I was a sex crimes detective where I investigated sex assaults. So it's not uncommon for these kids to not report things right away. And that's why here in Hawaii, the state allows the delayed reporting. Basically the statute of limitations are different with sex assaults because they do recognize that kids tend to hold things in, and later on in life they tend to disclose things. In this particular incident, the child had disclosed it to a friend, and the friend just had this burden, knew that they had to do something about it, but didn't even know how to go about doing it. But once we spoke to them, we offered them that resource and the information on how to report things to us. They gave us a tip. So as I looked at these kids, I says, thank you so much for reporting this, because I truly believe that this friend, this person, this tipster, whoever they were, saved this child's life. In 2001, we did start the Animal Crimestoppers program in partnership with the Hawaiian Humane Society, where we do help combat animal cruelty, within the communities. Because there's been a correlation, there's been a link between people who are cruel to animals or hurt animals later in life tend to have the potential to cause hurt or assaults on people. So with that said, we take in various type of tips from the community regarding animal cruelty, whether it be, from something as simple as, dog being, leashed up too short, in the hot sun with no food or water, we had more severe crimes, with people. Basically, I released something 2 months ago about someone had shot a cat through the face with a bow and arrow. There was a couple incidents like that. So those are two other facets of Crimestoppers. But generally, typically what we're known for is that, we have fugitives, people that are wanted, and I will put them out to the media. For instance, there was a shooting that happened over on at a bar on Beartania Street, Beartania and McCully. That shooting happened last month. Investigators worked the case, was able to get video surveillance. A suspect was identified, and I just put out that news release a couple days ago. Mr. Logo Talagafa is wanted for attempted murder and some firearms offenses, but we've received tips since then that he's fled to Seattle. So I was just on the phone earlier with the Seattle Crimestoppers program asking for their assistance. So they're going to put him on blast over in Seattle. We had a similar situation with State Hospital escapee Randall Saito, where as soon as he fled, we had information he had fled to California. So we put it out to our counterparts in California, and a patrol officer who had just saw the alert from Crimestoppers just so happened had stopped the vehicle that Mr. Saito was in and immediately recognized him. I was able to apprehend him and extradite him back to Hawaii. So once again, the program in itself, it's hugely successful. So I just want to kind of talk about, I'm going to be jumping all over the place once again, ask questions, as they come along, but I'm going to talk about certain things that we're seeing right now. One hot topic recently I was asked to speak about was Asian hate crimes. Sergeant Kim, is Asian hate crime on the rise here in Hawaii? Nationally, yes. Here in Hawaii, I'm proud to say that so far this year we had none. Last year we had 3 reported. But for the most part, people ask, why do you think that is? Why are we seeing so much things happening on the mainland, but not here in Hawaii? And what I tell them is that when you really think about it, Hawaii is just a huge melting pot of different diverse cultures and ethnicities. Even if you're not from here, at some point you tend to take on that aloha spirit. You don't have to necessarily be from here, but at some point after you live here and you interact with the people that live here, you tend to embody that aloha spirit where we treat people, with respect. And just be kind to each other. So I said, because, we're just so diverse here that the chance of these things happening are very, very rare. So for me, my own personal opinion, when this whole race card came about with that Nuuanu shooting, it's just very disheartening that it's being going that race route. I just personally feel with 23 years in HPD that, that racism thing doesn't really fly here in Hawaii. But in any case, I'm proud to say that, Asian hate crimes, we're not really seeing it here. The other question I get asked is crime on the rise since COVID? It just seems like, are people going crazy? It's like every day, like something's going on. Like, what the heck is going on to our home? Well, I'm also proud to report that statistically, crime is not on the rise. We're actually been a little bit behind. But what is happening is, when you think about it, pre-COVID, not too many people watched the news or not too many people were on social media. But once COVID happened and people started working from home, people started being on their computers more. They started watching TV more, started watching the news more. People who didn't have social media all of a sudden were getting social media, Facebook, Instagram, what have you, just to kind of keep in touch with people. And what's happening is people pre-COVID weren't so quick to post things on social media. But now, since COVID happened, it's like you talk about like Broke the Cloud, Hungry Hawaiian, HHH Viral, Stolen Stuff Hawaii. Like these things really, they really exploded during the COVID era because people are so quick to post on there now. And you think about it, it gets posted on one platform, it gets reposted on another platform, it gets reposted on another platform. So it kind of tends to have that it kind of misleads you to think that holy crap, like crime is on the rise. Is like all this stuff is going on, but what it is, I think just people are just more aware now, as opposed to before, because people are working from home, people are on their the computers a lot more, so they're just more informed now. So just to kind of make you feel it at ease. Yeah, statistically, crime is not on the rise. Certain things that we were seeing, senior citizens were being targeted at one point. They're talking about, Sergeant Kim, there seems to be an uptick in home invasion robberies. What's the deals with that? Once again, pre-COVID, you leave your house, you go to work, you come home, unfortunately, somebody broke into your house, it's a burglary. Well, what's happening is that more people were at home during this period in time where these burglars, they need to work too. And, they got to do what they got to do. And unfortunately, that's their job. Their job is to go out there and commit crimes. So they were still breaking into homes during COVID period. And just so happened, homeowners were at home and this was happening. So then it turns into what they're calling home invasion robberies, when in reality it was just it's a burglary. It's just a difference that people are at home now. So we had instances where unfortunately a lot of senior citizens were falling victim. But just this morning, we received a bunch of updates. That's probably going to come out of the news later on today. But there's several very frightening ones, concerning ones where they were tied up, firearms were involved, Kahala, Manoa, some other cases. But DNA results finally came back, and the people that were involved in that jewelry heist over at the Kakak, where they were captured video surveillance, breaking into the jewelry store using hammers and shattering the glass showcases. They're attired in like the motorcycle helmets and stuff. And Colin Ta'a and another guy's name is Balotiko. They were already in custody for those cases, and their DNA hits came back. So they were linked to all these home invasion robberies over in Kahala and in the Manoa area. So that's probably going to come out later on today. But just kind of let you know that behind the scenes, we're doing our thing. HPD is doing their thing. As much cop bashing and anti-police rhetoric that's been floating around, we're still doing what we need to do, and putting people behind bars. So just as a peace of mind, those cases, they are being solved. Another case that was high publicity was that Freeway Stabbing, where a male was driving home with his two daughters in the backseat of the car. There was an altercation on the freeway. They both had basically pulled over, and the altercation led to the victim being stabbed multiple times, and he passed away in front of his kids on the freeway. We worked that case. Once we were able to get video surveillance and photos of the vehicle, we released it on Crimestoppers, and I'm very proud to say that within 15 minutes of me clicking send and putting this news release out, basically we had the name already. It was that fast how we got the information. So he's since been identified. I'll tell you, his name is Stephen Allen. He's been identified, but has since fled. But the case is going to go over to grand jury, where there's going to be, I'm hoping, an indictment. An arrest warrant will then be issued, and that part. And after that, we'll basically upload it into our NCIC system and send the information out to our counterparts in North Carolina. So I'm very optimistic. I'm pretty confident that he's going to be located, arrested, and extradited back, to face, those charges here in Hawaii for that murder. Just some safety tips, just kind of along the lines of the senior citizens. I've been asked to speak to a lot of senior citizen groups. Just the other day, I spoke to the AARP members, and basically just kind of telling them how they can protect themselves. For those of you that have older family members, just something to think about. They are being targeted, and the reason why they're being targeted is because they make for easy targets, and it ranges, from the scams. They're so gullible, they're so naive, and it's not their fault. It's just that they grew up in a generation where they didn't have to worry about these types of things. Even for them at home. What I'm telling these senior citizens is that please, even when you're at home, lock your doors. Back in the day, if there were just slippers or shoes out front, people would just assume that someone is home and they wouldn't break in. But we're telling senior citizens now that even when you're at home, please lock your doors. Multi-story houses, basically lock, if you're not on that portion of the floor, like they like to air their houses out, we tell them, please lock and secure those windows if you're not going to be there. Invest in security cameras. When they're out and about, we've had a bunch of purse snatchings involving the senior citizens because these guys, they don't care. They know, that the senior citizens aren't going to chase after them. Senior citizens tend to be the ones that carry cash instead of credit or debit cards. We tell them, please, consider carrying, credit or debit cards as opposed to cash. There was a video that went viral, I think, pre-COVID, where there was a senior citizen shopping in Chinatown, and he had just placed his wallet down to count his money. The guy came from behind, snatched the wallet. I believe the victim was about 90 something years old. That same guy did the same thing to an elderly female the week prior in the same location. He was identified and arrested. But what we do is we like to play these type of videos just to kind of educate the seniors that, they are, our targets. There's one, unfortunately, that's been unsolved. Pretty sad to watch, but I see the video surveillance of the senior citizen walking down River Street in Chinatown at about 4 a.m. As she's walking down, a guy runs up from behind her, grabs her purse, she goes flying, ends up with a whole bunch of injuries, was in rehab for, I want to say, about 8 or 9 months. That case is still unsolved, and it's because the video was taken from behind. It's very grainy, and at 4 a.m, there were no witnesses there. So we're telling, in the story with that particular senior citizen, that she got up early because she wanted to be first in line. I believe it was the Salvation Army or Goodwill, first in line to be at the thrift store. So now what we're telling them is that please, senior citizens, we understand that you like to be independent, you don't want to cause trouble or be humbug or whatever. But reach out to your family members. If there are family members that are able to assist you, please start reaching out to them and asking them to help you run those errands, whether it be just something going shopping or going banking, whatever you need to do, reach out to your family members or friends to assist you, and vice versa. We're telling, community members, like if you do have senior citizens or kupunas in your family, to please, ask them. Another unfortunate thing that we saw during COVID, a huge uptick, was the scams, especially the romance scams. The reason behind the romance scams, you really think about it, these senior citizens were now secluded or isolated from family members because of COVID. They were told to stay at home, you can't meet with family members or whatever. So to stay in touch, a bunch of them started making social media, Facebook. And we unfortunately had these predators who were aware of that and were targeting these Facebook profiles where if they were widowed, single, divorced, or whatever. And it just starts off as a friendly conversation. And then they start what we call the grooming process, and, the sob story was like, I'm in the military, I'm going to retire pretty soon. I need some money. And these seniors were falling victim to it. I don't know how many of you saw it last year, but there was a story where someone had stolen my younger brother's Facebook profile picture, made a fake profile on Facebook, and then befriended a female, a senior citizen over in, I think it was North Carolina. Recently divorced, 5 kids, had all this money from the sale of the home. And the son had reached out to me. Just say, hey, I'm sorry, but, I just want to talk to you. My mother is talking to this gentleman that she met on Facebook, and, she's wired $25,000 so far. And, I asked my mom, like, who is this guy? Oh, I just met on Facebook, and, we both fall in love with each other. And they asked, have you spoken with this guy? And she says, well, yeah, we talk, we FaceTime each other, except because he's in the military, I've never seen his face because he can't give up his security clearance. I've only heard his voice, but I don't know what he looks like. And that's the common thing. So they had reached out to me because I guess when they did a Google search of this Facebook profile pic, there was a picture of me and my younger brother. He's also a police officer. We were at a community presentation, and we had taken a photo together, and it was uploaded, I think, on Crimestoppers or something. And he says, I need to know who this guy is because this is the person my mother's talking to. And I says, well, that's my brother. So we're actually able to speak with the mother. And it's like one of those eerie things where my brother, we did kind of like a FaceTime thing like this. There was several of it. There was the son, the daughter, the mother, my brother, and myself. And my brother's like, hey, hi, my name is John. I live in Honolulu, Hawaii, and I'm not in Iraq, and I'm not the person that you've been talking to. And just the look on the mother's face, she just kind of started to tear up. She was just in denial. And then I introduced myself, and I had explained to her that you have fallen victim to the romance scam. And I had encouraged her to work with the local authorities there in filing the police report. And I told her, you don't want to communicate with this guy anymore, because then he's going to tell you some sob story, as to why he used this fake profile. The son ended up calling the next day and says, yeah, she's still talking to the guy. Basically, the guy says, yeah, I'm an ugly guy. I'm not a good looking guy. So I took a picture of another guy, but it shouldn't matter what I look like because you fall in love with me. And at that point, the mother fell for it, and my understanding that they were still continuing this relationship. And unfortunately, what I was trying to explain to the son is that as much as he doesn't like it, let me backtrack. After the story aired, I received a bunch of phone calls here locally. One of them was a sister telling me that her older sister, who had retired, never been married, had a very healthy pension, $250,000 she paid to a guy that she's never met before. And the sister is just like, doesn't know what to do. Same thing when the son from the previous case had called me. And unfortunately, as much as they don't like it, as much as I don't like it, if they are mentally sane, if they're entitled to spend their money however the way they want, unless you can prove otherwise, and have them mentally evaluated and say that they need a caregiver or power of attorney, we all are entitled to spend our money any way we want, unless they recognize and accept the fact that they've been scammed and file a police report and pursue it. Nothing's going to happen. Around the same time frame, four men were indicted. The same time frame, I even sent the victim the link to the indictment where these guys were working in unison. There were a couple of people in Ohio, and the rest were in Africa. And they're all in cahoots to this romance scam. And I sent her the link. I says, look, it's the exact same sob story. Military, about to get out, needs the cash, whatever. And they gave it. And she still refused to believe. And it's heartbreaking that the son is just like, he didn't know what to do. And I just said, you basically can't do anything. They're going to spend the money however way they want to spend it. So once again, my point being, senior citizens, we saw a huge uptick in that. Please reach out to your family members. They've also fallen victim to repair scams. People walking around the neighborhood saying, I see that your roof is damaged, or your house is damaged, or your vehicle's damaged. I can fix it. I just need, the money for the parts up front, and we're seeing an uptick in those type of scams as well as the ones, the usual ones, family members saying that, hey, grandma, grandpa, I've been arrested. Please, can you send money over? But it's got to be paid in Visa cards. Recently, if you start getting emails or something about to make payment in gift cards, that's the trend now with criminals. Before, money had to be wired, money had to be sent. But now with the gift cards, all they're asking for, they're telling people to go to the store, get the gift card, scratch out the back, and just give us some numbers on the back of the card. And essentially those make it a lot harder to track, pretty much impossible to track. So these criminals know that. We've had a bunch of cases recently where people are being called saying, hi, this is IRS, or hi, this is immigrations, or whatever. Please make payment. It's funny. There was actually something with Hawaiian Telecom. In fact, I think it was 2 weeks ago. I had received a bunch of reports where the victims were receiving emails saying that their online account or something had been compromised, and it needs to be something. It needs to be fixed or something. So they're asking for the username and password for their accounts. And what was happening? These people were giving up that information, and the scammers were then going through the mailing list, the contact list, and then sending emails out to people in their contact list saying that, hey, hi, purporting themselves to be the victim. Says, hey, hi, I'm really embarrassed. I hate to ask you this, but I'm going through some hard times right now. I need your help. Is there any way I can borrow some money? And there were actually a bunch of cases like that where people were sending the money. So we have to put out that media release saying that people were receiving email, you know, from Hawaiian Telecom, but they're all the same. We've had it with the other utility companies, Board of Water Supply, Hawaiian Electric. But just as most recently, the emails that we saw were someone purporting themselves to be from Hawaiian Telecom. So other things I want to talk about is the just little safety tips, what we're seeing as well as, at the gas stations, not picking on the females, but females with purses, putting your purse on the front seat. You pull up to a gas station, you leave your purse in the front seat, you don't lock your door. Sometimes the windows are down and you're pumping your gas on the driver's seat. We saw an uptick in that where people were crouching down, opening the passenger side door and stealing the purse. So now we're telling people, my mom included, to stop leaving your purse on the front seat. Or you're pumping the gas, either you lock your doors or take your purse with you. Same thing with while they're out grocery shopping. People tend, I don't know how many of you do it, people tend to leave their purse in the shopping basket at the very top where we usually put the infant in. I had to release a video over at Don Quixote where a senior citizen had just pulled her shopping cart out, was walking to Don Quixote, but there's a bakery right out front, had pulled over just to kind of look at the bread there. And as soon as she did that, female suspect walks out and grabs the purse and walks right out. Victim didn't even know her purse had been stolen until it came time to pay for her items. Vehicle break-ins. We saw a slight increase once they did the shopping bag ban. Because what people started doing is that people started leaving their shopping bags in the cars, empty shopping bags. And these criminals, what they're doing is they're walking around. We have numerous video pretty much every day of these types of things happening where they're pulling on doors or they're looking through the windows to see what's inside. And if they see an empty shopping bag in there, they're shattering the window. But they're using there's a center punch. Usually carpenters, people in the trade will use it just to kind of mark things. It's a spring-loaded center punch, and they're pushing it against the glass, and it's spring-loaded, and what it does, it ends up shattering the glass. Pretty much makes hardly any noise, and they're in and out, in a matter of they can reach your vehicle within 10 seconds. They're shattering the window and stealing the items that are inside. So what we're telling people is that, just kind of keep in mind, don't put anything visible in your vehicle, even something as an empty shopping bag, any type of boxes, or even like gym bags. We see that kind of frequently where people, they're going to go to the gym after work and they leave their gym bag in it with just a towel and some shoes. But people are breaking in and stealing these type of things. So we're telling just be mindful. Times have definitely changed. And criminals are out there, they've got to survive as well. And basically, typically when these crimes happen, they're crimes of opportunity. The criminals are out there, they're looking for that opportunity, and if they're able to do it, they are. Any questions? I know I'm kind of going kind of fast.
I believe we do have some questions.
I see the one about the sister. Yeah, see, I guarantee, how many people in this group, I guarantee some of the things that I've talked about, some of you either have experienced it or know someone have experienced it. And it says right here that someone's sister got caught in one of the scams where they sent 100 viruses in the computer. They got it stopped for $100. So yeah, that's a pretty common one as well, where they're going to say your computer has been compromised. Another thing, links. Don't click on links. That's another one that we see a lot of, is that once you click on links, that you're basically it allows these scammers to put viruses or even hack your computer, even smartphones. Unfortunately, we've had cases like that. Something just popped in the top of my head that I really feel like it's important is going back to the student Crimestoppers with kids. For those of you that have kids, we were seeing an uptick, especially the kids that play the online gaming, Call of Duty or whatever. We were unfortunately seeing an uptick. I did a news release. Games, but also kids with social media. There was one scam going around where these predators were targeting kids. They were going on kids' social media because I guess the trend now is these kids like to get as many likes or as many followers, or they want to be the latest and greatest viral person or what have you. But these scammers were targeting kids, or they're basically girls that had posted photos of themselves, and these people were saying, "Hey, hi, I'm such and such from this modeling agency. You have this look that what we're looking for. We can make you popular. We can make you famous. We can make you the next Instagram star. But please send us a photo now in your bikini. Send us photo, and it would lead to send us photos in the nude." And unfortunately, these kids were sending these photos, and it got to the point where we were seeing numerous cases in East Oahu, where these kids were being targeted, and these supposed model scouts were soliciting photos. Photos were being sent. Then they were asking for in-person meetings. Kids were saying, "I'm sorry, I don't drive. I have to catch the bus, or I have to tell my parents to drop me off or whatever." But what these predators were doing, they were saying, we're gonna send you an Uber or a Lyft. And at that point, one of the kids had that type of rapport relationship with the mother, and had basically explained to the mothers to what was happening, and made the police report. And then we then saw numerous cases start coming in regarding that. Same thing with these video games, these online gamings, where back in the day, I remember growing up, when I had a Nintendo, basically the person I was playing was the person sitting right next to me. But now these kids are able to play video games with someone in another country. And what they're doing is these kids are playing these games. These predators are then befriending these kids. And a lot of times these kids, like, they want to buy like the bigger gun or extra ammo or extra lives or whatever. And these groomers, these predators are saying, "Okay, I'll give you the money. I'll buy this for you." They start buying them things, right? So now they have that similar interest with the video game, and now they're showering them with gifts. And the next, they're asking for inappropriate photos, nude photos, or kids engaging in, in lewd activity. These people are kind of like how people collect baseball cards. For them, it's a thrill of collecting these photos. We've had cases where someone's computer had some problems. They took it over to a store to get repaired. And when they looked at the hard drive, we had one case, 600 something images, of just these kids engaged in all type of lewd activities, and they get a kick out of that. Periodically, we do have success stories where they're being busted. But what we're telling parents, is, please have that type of rapport with your kids, where if something was to happen, that they be comfortable enough to turn to you. These kids, a lot of times, for parents, I get it. I'm a single father myself. I'm divorced. I have two little girls, and we especially here living in Hawaii, we have to struggle to kind of make ends meet. Some parents work two jobs, and they're not always there for the kids. So what's happening is these kids are then seeking that attention elsewhere. And unfortunately, they're getting that off of their social media. They're getting that off of their video games. And, at that point, these predators, they know that, and they start grooming them. They start befriending them, making them feel important, making them feel loved, and building that trust. And that's how these things happen. So as parents, please, as busy as you are, please make it a point to have that type of relationship, that type of rapport with your kids, where if something was to ever happen, that they'd be comfortable enough in approaching and telling you, and not being scared to tell you. And that's the important thing. My daughter's 13 and 8, and I do fortunately have that type of rapport where if something was to ever happen, that they'd be comfortable enough to talk to me and not scared to come and talk to me. So yes, parents, that huge. Reach out to your kids and talk to them. Have these periodic talks about their online use, their gaming use, maybe even monitoring the social media activity, especially, the younger juveniles. We were seeing them, 12, 13, 14-year-olds that are being targeted. I know it gets a little bit harder once they start turning to their later teens. They tend to have a mind of their own, but still, just try and have these periodic talks to them. If they do attend a particular school and you want me to go out there, please reach out to the schools. We do go out to the schools. Pre-COVID, we did, and even now we're starting to go back, both public and private. If not, we can always do presentations. I've done numerous presentations on Zoom about social media safety, internet safety, and about the Student Crimestoppers program. So if your kids do attend a school and you want us to talk to them, please reach out to the school administration and let them know, like, hey, what can we do? Is it possible to have Crimestoppers come and talk to the kids about these types of things?
So Sergeant Kim, here's the first question.
Okay.
What is the protocol when Crimestoppers distributes an alert about a scam that targets certain customers? Recently, an alert was shared about a scam targeting Hawaiian Telecom customers that we didn't learn about until after it was distributed to the media. Thank you.
Good question. So basically what happens is that we come into play after, kind of like, so the detective's case. So in this particular case, the detective got the case, and if they feel like it's important enough or they're seeing enough numbers that the public needs to be warned at that point, that the request came in, cases made, detective got it, and detective had reached out to us because they realize that we are the ones to put the information out there. And this goes with any scam, not just Hawaiian Tel's one. We've had it in Hawaiian Electric, Board of Water. So I don't know. It's pretty much up to the detective, I guess, to reach out to Hawaiian Tel if they want. But basically, we receive that separate request that comes in through us saying that, hey, this is happening. We need this to be put out. We've had cases where Hawaiian Electric would then reach out. They're made aware of it, then they reach out to the detectives, or they'll reach out to Crimestoppers, or they'll reach out to HPD's Public Information Office, who then we work in partnership with. So basically, that's what it is. It's not something that someone from the public has just reported. I put it out. There's actually a chain that it has to come through, and the original chain has to come officially through HPD. So in this particular case of Hawaiian Tel, it came officially through HPD. HPD then reached out to Crimestoppers to help us to put the information out. So basically, like I mentioned earlier, Crimestoppers works. We're a resource. We're the tool to distribute information out for the public.
The second question is, how has the pandemic affected the crime rate? Has it spiked up or actually gone down since COVID-19?
Good question. I kind of touched on that. That was a common question that came up, was like, hey, since COVID happened, it seems like it's an increasing crime. Statistically, there isn't. What it was, as I mentioned earlier, is there's just a lot more awareness now being put out there, just people being informed a lot more, just for the various postings, social media, and the news. But statistically, no, hasn't been enough to.
Okay, thank you. The third question, how are individuals or cases selected to be featured on Crimestoppers?
Very common question. Excellent question. Once again, that comes in. So it depends. So every week we have criminals that we feature on. So we have 2 that go to midweek for their paper. Every week we have 2 that goes to KH1 for the Most Wanted, which gets aired Saturday nights and on Monday nights. We used to have a Hawaii News Now Wanted Wednesdays, but after COVID hit, that kind of went away. And on KITV, every Monday they have a crime spot. So every week there's at least 6. And I have an officer that basically goes to the files every day. So if someone commits a crime, or let's say so a lot of things that people don't understand is that someone commits a crime, gets arrested, goes through the judiciary process where they serve time in jail, and at some point they're released on probation, and they're supposed to check with their probation officer or whatever. But at some point they violate that. Either their urine test is all positive for something, or they fail to check in with the probation officer. If they violate certain, you heard the term violation of the terms and conditions of probation, of whole probation. At some point after they were sentenced, they served their 1 year in jail, 2 years in jail, or whatever. Their probation for 5 years, meaning they check in, or they got a test clean, but something happens, and they violated. Warrant is in, and it'll show up on the warrant files, and my officer goes to the warrant files on a daily basis. Any new warrants that gets put out, we try and push it out to the public. A lot of times people will be like, hey, what the hell, this happened in 2012, why you only asking us now? Or why you release them in the first place, and now you asking for our help now? It's like, it goes on and on. I mean, I get bashed all the time. But people don't understand the judiciary process, that it had gone through. It already played out. But at some point, this person violated, and now we're asking, they're back out. And it's not us, it's not Crimestoppers, it's not HPD that's putting them back out there. We get that a lot. It's like, why the hell is police always send them back out? No, it's not us. It's due process. It played out. They're put out there. and we're just asking for people afterwards. But to answer your question, that's for the fugitives. For cases, same thing. Detectives have to reach out to us. I'm about to release, just prior to this, I was working on, someone had set a couple fires in downtown. One of them was they set fire to the entryway of the state Supreme Court. They were able to obtain video surveillance. So I'm actually working on that right now. So later on today, I'm going to be releasing a video on that. And that request came into the detective. Incident happened. Police were notified. Report was started. Case is assigned to a detective. Detective goes out there, does his investigation, pulls video. And at that point, once their video is obtained, reaches out to us, and then we put it out. I hope that answers that question.
Next question, what do you think is the underlying cause in the increase in crime?
Once again, I know the perception is, you're crazy. I know crime is on the rise. We go, statistically, when we pull numbers, there hasn't been an increase, but just once again, it's just a perception of things are happening.
Next question, what's the most common crime in your opinion?
Property crime, vehicle break-ins. We have so many videos for those of you that have carports. I think people get complacent. Let's say, you come home, your car's in a carport, you're thinking, okay, it's in the carport and I don't have to lock the doors. You forget to lock the doors. I have so many video of people walking around 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning, just pulling on door handles. A lot of times, a lot of cases, they're juveniles, just out and about, just doing these things. We have a lot of those. So that, to me, in my opinion, one of the common things that we see here at Crimestoppers is vehicle break-ins.
There seems to be more crimes occurring in broad daylight. Example, the assaults on 4th Street Mall by McDonald's. Can you comment on this? It's scary to walk downtown knowing that you could get assaulted for no reason at all.
Yes. So I wouldn't say it's like crime is always going to be, unfortunately, crime's always going to be there. Crimes of opportunity. If and unfortunately, there's some crazy people out there. But it's hard. The police are out there doing what they can. I wouldn't say there's an uptick in crimes happening during daylight. I think if the opportunity presents itself, if something's going to happen, it's going to happen. I talked about that case at 4 in the morning with a senior citizen. And we have cases, like 4 in the afternoon or 8 in the morning. It's just crime. There's no rhyme or reason. It just happens. What I tell people though is that we all still need to do our part in being. You hear me saying the word vigilant a lot of times. Like, what do you mean by that, vigilant? I say, well, if you really think about it, just being aware. Being more cautious now. How many of us, are out and always like this, walking, staring, at your phone or whatever. We've seen it at bus stops. People with their bags at the bus stop, bag is next to them, and they're so engrossed in their phone. So we tell people, just make periodic, look up once in a while. Don't always stare at your phones, even when you're walking. Females, if you're going to be walking alone in a parking lot or what have you, just make it a point, to look over your shoulder or something. If you see somebody suspicious, reach out. If your building wherever you're at has security, reach out to them. But just kind of be aware of your surroundings. We had one happen in a Kayaka area where the guy was walking to his vehicle and there was a van, and guy jumps out at gunpoint and robs him. But just if something doesn't sit right with you, I'm not victim shaming, but I think some cases that we're seeing, if people had just been more aware, we've had cases where people, wait for their significant other or family members to get off of work and they're sitting in the car with the windows rolled down, with the Rolex on their wrist hanging out the doorway or whatever. Just things like that, even if you're going to be in your vehicle, just make it a point to roll up your windows and lock your doors.
Good point. Next question. When a drug house is in your area and there's lots of dealing going on, how are we supposed to get them to stop? Even when we make a lot of complaints to the police department and they advise to speak to narcotics division and they say they will look into the problem, but nothing has been done for years.
Okay. There is a hotline. The Narco Vice does have a hotline. They're taking these tips from the public. If that hasn't worked out, then send a tip to us at Crimestoppers, and I will personally send it to them. because I see a lot of success stories. You know, I see stories where I take in these tips, I route it to narco vice, and you have to understand it's there's a process that has to play out, right? It just can't be based off of allegations. You know, like my neighbor's doing this, traffic all hours of the day, shady people walking in and out. Okay, those are the telltale signs, but we still need the evidence. Meaning, once you take in that tip, narco vice has to send in their undercover officers. So periodic, and we have undercover officers. You know, a lot of times it's going to be the brand new recruits from the academy or whatever, faces that they don't recognize. And they need to send the officers in there, and there needs to be a buy. There needs to be some type of transaction. They need to actually witness it firsthand. It just can't be based off a neighbor's allegations. You know, so there is a process. But if you're experiencing that, there is a hotline. If not, send the information to us. Call us on our hotline, or download the P3 Tips app on your smartphone. Submit the information. I will route it to them, and they're supposed to give a disposition back to me, where and basically letting me know, if they what came of it. So I'm sorry that you're experiencing that, but moving forward, please submit the information to us, and I'll personally see that information gets turned over to them.
So we have about 4 more questions, and we'd like to kind of wrap it up about by 2. So the next question is, when can neighborhood communities help to reduce crime in our own backyard? Are there any community-based programs that help watch out for each other?
There are. So depending on where you live, you can just go honolulupd.org, figure out what area that you live in, what district, and each district has a community policing team, and they can kind of help get you started with just a community, the neighborhood security watches. Basically, building a rapport, having a good rapport with your neighbors, definitely helps. If you want to walk the neighborhood, we've had cases like that as well. People just walk the neighborhoods just to be visible, maybe make shirts or whatever. But once again, depending on the district that you live in, you can reach out to HPD, honolulupd.org, find out what district you live in, and then reach out to their community policing team and ask them that you want to start up your neighborhood security watch.
Awesome. Thank you. Social Security calls saying SSN is being used by others. Is this something you comment on? Yeah,
identity theft. It's very common. We tell people periodically have credit checks done. A lot of the time, they're free. People, I think, sometimes get complacent with that. Do you think? I mean, these identity thefts, they can happen without you knowing. Something that happens for years before you even catch on. Then you realize, like, hey, I never had this account. Make periodic credit checks. Some have a small fee and some are free. So that's one way you can kind of combat that.
How can we build trust in the police, given the recent spat of local police-involved shootings and subsequent lack of transparency and accountability from the department?
Oh, you give me a tough question, yeah. So I can tell you my own personal opinion on that, because I represent Crimestoppers. I don't represent HPD. That's the thing. I'm a sworn officer, but I can only speak on behalf of Crimestoppers. And then I get it. I understand the frustration, but I think in any occupation, we've had priests, judges, prominent doctors, people. No matter where you go, no matter what occupation that you're in, there are always going to be some bad apples or whatever. But for the most part, there are over 2,000 of us, and I want to say the majority of us are good officers out there doing what we need to do. So yeah, those shootings, I have my own opinion. It's unfortunate. I think sometimes it gets slanted a certain way. For me personally, I don't think the guy could have been Korean. I'm Korean. The guy could have been Korean, Japanese, white, whatever. The outcome would have been the same. Yeah, touchy subject, because once again, I have my own personal opinions on that, as well as the ones with the juveniles. Yeah, it's hard. People get so fixated on the fact that he was 16 years old, and I get it, but you're robbing houses with a gun, even though it ended up being a fake gun. The amount of fear that you're causing to the people that, to the victims. Touchy subject. I don't know. I can't really answer that one. It's all of that still got to be played out. It's hard. But I'm going to tell you one thing though. I want to mention this. Our occupation, right? If you really think about it, we're as police officers, right? You're damn if you do, and you damn if you don't. You don't act, something can happen. If you act, something, it's just one of those things. Our job is also the ones that's always going to get Monday quarterbacked, always scrutinized, right? But yet we are put in positions on a daily basis where we need to make life and death decisions in a matter of seconds, when most of us can't even decide what we want to eat for breakfast or lunch or what to wear, right? But now we are being put in positions to make life changing decisions in a matter of split seconds, and then we get scrutinized. I'll leave it at that.
How come the Crimestoppers newscast is looking for criminals from long ago crimes?
That's what I had answered earlier. Common question. Once again, crime could have happened in 2010, 2000, depending on what the judge sentenced him to. 5 years probation, 10 years probation, whatever. They violate those terms and conditions of probation, they're wanted again. And that's why we have to talk about what there. So let's say it was in 2010 when they violated the condition. And we have to speak about that was the initial charge that brought it to where we're at today.
Can you touch a bit on sex trafficking in Hawaii?
Kind of what I talked about earlier. Kids are being targeted. We have cases where these kids are running away from home. They hang out at the malls, and these predators are out there looking for these kids. We've had stories of predators paying younger boys, high school boys, money, and basically try and look for girls and invite them to house parties or whatever, and they try and convince them to start engaging in these type of activities, prostitution or what have you. But once again, it all starts off at home, having that type of rapport and relationship with your kids to prevent them, from running away. Well, we understand, there are different challenges, it's hard. But that's what that is. A lot of it is just monitoring your kids, monitoring their social media activities.
Thank you. And last but not least, and it's more of a comment than a question, is we would just love to thank you for your service to the community and for making the island a safer place.
Thank you. Thank you. So I noticed I only got a couple minutes. I don't know if I need to end abruptly at 1, but basically I want to leave you with this. Basically my inspirational story. 2016, I had it all. Married, brand new home in Hawaii Kai. I was a homicide detective. Life was great. 2 kids in private school. Later that year, blindsided. Found out my wife was having an affair with a coworker. I didn't know how to handle it. In the 2016, I filed for divorce, year-long process. Thought my life was done. Contemplated suicide. What's ironic is that as a homicide detective, we respond to suicides. And I cannot tell you the amount of times that I would respond to cases or go to autopsies and see all these deaths or these suicides because someone cheated or they cheated or something happened. I remember at the time I used to tell my partner, it's so stupid. Why the hell would you kill yourself, or a guy, girl, whatever? I'd go out and find another one, right? But when it happens to you, so when it happened to me, I vowed again to never judge people. Yeah, that was one thing I realized. You don't judge people. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know what led them to do that, because I contemplated it. For someone who used to investigate these things, I contemplated it. Fortunately, I had a good support group, and at the time, I realized that it would have been selfish of me because my kids would have grown up without a father. I was then told that there was going to be an opening. I was looking to transfer out because what had happened was previous quarter announced a retirement. Say, Chris, I think this would be good for you. It's a good schedule, Monday through Friday. You'd be able to spend time with your kids as a single father. And I said, no, screw that. I hate talking to people. I'm an investigator. Give me the case. Let me find this fugitive or whatever. I ain't going on the news. I ain't talking to people. I hate talking to people. I'm not comfortable in that. They used to say public speaking is people's number one fear or something like that. I was like, I ain't doing that. She said, Chris, think about it, because she had gone through a divorce and same thing, the schedule worked out for her. And I said, okay, well, think about it. Well, eventually I put my name in a hat. Historically, it's always been a female. I threw my name in a hat. I wasn't selected. People don't know this, but I wasn't selected for the position initially. One day, shortly after they had made the announcement of who they were going to pick, I responded. I took my kids to school. I was sent to a suicide case. Prominent doctor, East Honolulu, blew his head off in the garage. Wife finds him. I get over there. I investigate the case. And basically in the end, she's all crying, saying, who's going to clean this up? I said, you got to call a biohazard company. They're going to come out. They're going to clean all this up for you. She's sobbing, sobbing, sobbing. She tells me, can you at least pull my car out of the driveway? She had a brand new Mercedes in the carport, in the garage. I pull the car out. There's brain, blood, whatever. I mean, it's just everywhere. And she's just crying, distraught. As soon as I pull the car out of the garage, I give her the keys, and she says, I get a call. Chris, you got a suicide. 17-year-old hung herself in Mililani. So I tell the lady, I got to go. I got another case I got to head out to. And as I'm starting my car, I'm about to drive off, I see her sitting on her lanai, just sobbing. And she's saying that she can't get a hold of the people, or whatever. So I go back. I said, you have any towels and garbage bags? And she's like, why? And I said, I'll clean it up for you. So she's kind of in shock. She's like, what? She gets the towels, garbage bags. I'm on my hands and knees. I'm cleaning all this stuff up, wiping this blood, the brains, whatever, wiping everything down for her, bagging it. And at that moment, I realized I'm done. I need to change my career. I had become so desensitized, right? Where this wasn't bothering me. And I thought, my divorce is coming to an end. I need to start looking elsewhere, different type of police work. So I had that moment where I said, I'm done. I, as a single father and starting my new life now, divorce is about to wrap up. This thing doesn't bother me anymore. And to me, that's a problem. If you start getting on your hands and knees and start picking brains and blood and whatever, and it doesn't bother you, that's a problem. And at that point, I had to kind of focus on my kids. So I started looking elsewhere about where I was going to transfer to. And next day, I get a phone. Well, basically, my captain tells me, get in my office. And I'm thinking, oh, gosh. I went through a very, very bad divorce. And I thought, what did my ex-wife do now or whatever? And basically, he says, you want the Crimestoppers position? I said, yes. He says, if you want it, it's yours. And I said, I thought you guys gave it to such and such. He said, change of plans. If you want it, it's yours. I basically broke down. I was just like, Cap, just yesterday, I was thinking of going back to patrol or doing something else because I'm done in homicide. He's like, well, you got the program. If you want it, it's yours. I took on the program. I wasn't comfortable at first, but I was so determined and focused that 2 years later, I was invited to be a guest speaker at the Crimestoppers USA National Conference to talk about the program and the success stories that we were having. Our statistics were off the charts. I'm invited to be a guest speaker and to talk about different classes, different things. And during the awards banquet, we're talking thousands of people. We're talking about NYPD, LAPDs. 350 plus organizations. We have a huge department, but these mainland departments are huge. And they're announcing the Crimestoppers Coordinator of the Year. I'm thinking, whatever, it ain't gonna be me. They start talking about, this particular person or whatever, and people start looking at me saying, I think it's you. And I said, no, it ain't me. When they said, ladies and gentlemen, the 2019 Crimestoppers USA National Coordinator of the Year, starting Chris Kim from Honolulu, Hawaii. I lost it. I stood on stage and I just went numb to look at the sea of people standing ovation, right? And I'm thinking, how does a little local boy from Hawaii, from Kaimiki High School, end up here on a national stage, winning the top program in the nation in 2 years? So I told him, I said, if you guys only knew what I went through 2 years ago, most people don't know this, but I contemplated suicide. And to be, sorry, still get choked up. When I came back home and, to get, when I got recognized at state capitol in front of my kids. Sorry.
It's okay.
State capitol in front of my kids, my mom. I tell people, I do a lot of these talks, and especially with the kids, and I tell them, we all go through challenges and adversities in life, and it's basically how you overcome them. It's not taking the easy way out. It's overcoming those challenges and what you make of it. I tell people, embrace the change, embrace the challenges. I was given an opportunity, and it's something I didn't want to do initially, but I looked at the bigger picture and I ran with it. I embraced it. I ran with it. And I'm proud to say, I'm leaps and bounds ahead of where I was before. Divorce still sucks, but and at the same time, I tell people, if you're in a position of authority, as a supervisor or business owner or boss or whatever, give people a chance. I was given a chance. If you're able to, give people a chance and see, let them run with it and then see what they're able to do with it. Fortunately, our program has exploded. It's expanded hugely. And it's just because I was so determined, to to make this thing work, even though I was uncomfortable. You know, you got to step out of your comfort zone. Step out of your comfort zone. Sometimes you got to do things you don't want to do, but just embrace the change, embrace the challenge, and see where it takes you. And I'm very blessed to say that, you know, it's things worked out for me. So I'm going to continue. You know, I promised the community. I think you have a 5-year verbal commitment. I'm on my 4th year now. I got another year left on my verbal commitment. I can retire in 2 years. I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet, but I promise, you know, you and the community that I'm going to continue to do whatever I can in helping to keep our community safe. But thank you for inviting me. Sorry, I got a bit choked up initially, but thank you.
So much. No, thank you. Thank you, Sergeant Kim, for joining us, sharing your time and sharing your journey. I'm still trying to recoup from my tears. That was very touching. And
Sorry.
no, thank you for sharing that with us. It's greatly appreciated. And your message was very insightful today. So again, thank you so much. The last thing, Officer Kim, is I believe someone in the chat had asked for your information for fundraising efforts as well as school visits. So if you could share that with us, it'd be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, so you can call the hotline 955-8300, but via the website as well, www.homelandcrimestoppers.org. There are options, there are links there if you want to donate. You know, please feel free, but also keep an eye out. You know, we do have I would love to see, you know, we usually have an annual dinner gala, typically in April. Unfortunately, it's canceled this year, but next year, if you're able to do it, please, you want to support us, come out to this dinner gala. It's awesome. But for those of you that golf, we usually have a golf tournament in August. I don't think we're going to have it this year, but just look out for those fundraisers. You know, it's a way to have a good time and support a cause. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks all.
Thank you so much for coming.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aloha.